afternoon, everyone. This is the Sports Pavilion and Bowling Committee meeting of the Recreation Centers of Sun City West. Today is October the 9th, 2024, and I'm going to call, my name is Dick Rhodes, I'm the chairman of the committee, and I will call the meeting to order at 1:30 p.m. If we could stand and do the pledge for the flag. Thank you. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We do have a quorum today. We have two of our members that are excused absence. Before I say that, let me ask, is Gloria Arai on by chance? She's not? Okay. Gloria is excused. Sherry Gingrich and Gloria are both absent today, but we still have a quorum. I'm going to read the meeting protocol, and we're reading it every committee meeting. The governing board conducts all of its meetings, including committee meetings, in compliance with Arizona open meeting laws per ARS 33-1804, and in concert with the RCSCW bylaws, policies, and standing rules. Parliamentary procedures, as outlined in the most recent edition of Robert's Rules of Order, will also be followed, consistent with Bylaw 3.07, Procedures for Owner Member Meetings, and Standing Rules number 2 and number 3. All questions and comments are directed to the committee chairperson. All comments are entertained at the discretion of the committee chairperson. Speakers shall state their name and their member number and speak in a courteous manner. The committee chairperson may limit commentary time and the number of commenters, speakers on any issue. The committee chairperson may also redirect commentary at individual agenda items to the general guest comments agenda line item, except when the committee has discussed the agenda item and consensus or agreement is sought. All fire and room safety precautions and regulations are strictly obeyed at all meetings per the guidance from Arizona Fire and Medical Authority. The committee chairperson reserves the right to adjourn any meeting if the safety of the committee, meeting attendees, or others is deemed at risk, or if there is too much disruption to continue. After one verbal warning by the chairman, the committee chairperson also reserves the right to ask any meeting attendees to leave any meeting should their behavior be deemed dangerous or unacceptable, and disciplinary actions may follow. Okay, let's go ahead and proceed to the approval of the meetings from September the 11th. Is there any, I propose they be accepted. Is there any discussion to that? If not, those minutes on September the 11th are accepted. We have our first agenda item as a staff report, and it's item number 3.01. It's our Sports Pavilion and Bowling Manager report from Mr. Gary Zarek. Gary?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just got back. We just started our 26th league of this season already. 26 leagues going to 32. So we are extremely busy right now in the bowling center. 2,000 bowlers will be bowling this season at Johnson Lanes throughout the season, along with open play and tournaments. So we are very excited about being this busy. It helps generate revenue for Sun City West, and it definitely keeps all my employees very, very busy. So we're very excited about that. You will see by the lineage, there's quite a discrepancy between September of 2023 and September of 2024 because we were down September 2023 for 2 full weeks doing the lane replacement. So you will notice that lanes, the games that were played are substantially higher this year than last. Also, as far as what happens with billiards, we have refelted 10 tables already of the 29 we have. And I have just put on the last of the 30 new pool sticks we bought. They have not been replaced in a substantial amount of time. So we are going to try and get these in a more regular, frequent basis of replacing the felt on the pool tables because some of them are still a little bit tired, but we did the top 10 that we thought were in the worst shape. So we will periodically get on a schedule to get those replaced in a timely manner. Great responses out of the billiard room, out of the club and the pool players. They are very excited about what's going on in there, and we are very excited to have them because as the snowbirds come back, that room gets extremely busy with a lot of people who have been away for a while. So it's the perfect time that everything's been done, and we're excited to get a lot of players in that, and I think you're going to see that participation in the billiard room is also going to increase. So a very, very good, strong possibility that things are going to be a lot better over there in the billiard room. They're noticing what's going on, and we've got a lot of positive comments. So it's been great. The other part of my report is Lizard Acres, and you will see that we have lost a little bit in in August, only because when the building was down for 2 full weeks for maintenance and repairs, we lost our karaoke, our trivia, and our Friday night bands. So you will see a little bit of a decrease in revenue in August, but positive again in September, now that we're again running full bore. So very exciting things are going on, and it's just been absolutely great. So we're pleased and happy and busy. All good. Thank you, sir.
Do any of the committee members have any questions or comments for Gary? Does anyone in the audience have any questions or comments for Gary? If you do, would you please come up to the microphone and give us your name and your rec number, please?
Bob Ingen, E-N-G-E-N, 126885.
Thank you.
All right. I'm the president of BASEW. It's a bowling club in Sun City West. We have over 200 members. I'm also a league secretary for 3 leagues. So I have about 300 people that come in every week. And I constantly get asked the question, what's the policy on food in the bowling center? And I want to know, is there a written policy that I can get my hands on so that I have that policy?
You know, you have asked right now probably the question that we've been struggling with for the past 3 weeks is the policy on food. I actually have I'm going to defer responding to that because we have that on our agenda, and we'll have a more comprehensive discussion at that time. But I'll give you the short answer. The short answer is that food is not permitted in the bowling alleys.
But that raises...
Wait, let me finish it, okay? We are having issues with the proprietor of the restaurant, and we're trying to resolve those now. So that's really all I can go right now. I have that as an agenda item. If you look down to item 4.04, that will be an all-encompassing question. And if you have questions then, please feel free to come back up to the podium.
Okay, I would only ask that you address things like personal things that people bring in, like pretzels,
Right.
candy, that type of stuff too.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. Do we have anyone else in the room? Do we have anyone online? No, we don't. Okay. So we're going to go to our next agenda item, which is 3.02. And this is going to be the Sports Pavilion financial review by our CFO, Mr. Cliff Swan.
Okay, thank you, Director Rhodes. Good afternoon, everyone. Happy to report the August year-to-date financial results for the Sports Pavilion. And again, keeping in mind that in August we were closed for 2 weeks. I will say last year, comparing to last year, we were closed for the full month of August and also a week or 10 days into September as well. So we'll see that kind of variance year over year in lineage and revenue and expense for that matter as we evaluate August and September. So that said, August year to date, on the operating revenue side, we're running favorable to budget, which is awesome. 12,000 favorable to budget on 108,000 in revenue. Help if I turned it on, huh? Looking on the expense side, 19,000 unfavorable, 12,000 unfavorable in wages and benefits to budget. I dug into that and simply put, I based the budget on prior year, and prior year we were closed. I didn't do a good job of spreading that out accordingly, so we should hopefully see that return as we work out throughout the year. But 19 unfavorable year to date on the expense side. Repairs and maintenance, Mr. Zarek explained a little bit about what's going on there with the billiards tables and the billiard sticks. So we spent some time and energy and resources into investing into the billiards room, which it really did need. I will say though, you'll see in the revenue and the other revenue as we work throughout the year, we had some additional revenue on our balance sheet from forfeited lineage from leagues that sat on our balance sheet, and we reconciled that, and we'll be able to more than cover the additional cost of those repairs in the billiards room with that additional revenue. Unfortunately, we can't just offset it on the balance sheet or offset it in revenue or expense, so we're going to record the expense as an overage, and then we'll record the revenue as an overage, and you'll see that as we move throughout the year. So it'll cover all those additional maintenance costs that we didn't budget. Overall, 7,000 unfavorable. Took a peek at September because we're in the middle of closing September right now. And I will say that we more than made up that 7,000 in September. So just a little bit of a teaser there on September results. So we're back on track after September for sure. Compared to prior year, 45,000 favorable in revenue. That's that. I talked about it earlier before I started with the closures and prior year versus this year, obviously being open and generating bowling, we're generating revenue. So overall, if we look at our lineage compared to prior year, we're approximately 11,200 bowling lineage ahead of prior year. You can see the non-league is up, which is great. I mean, that just means that we're engaging with our community, and we're taking more open bowling from our community members, as well as our league players that want to come and practice and those sorts of things. But that's a good sign. And taking a look at the revenue types, so you can see this is the year-over-year change in each of the revenue types, and you'll see that 31,000 favorable bowling revenue compared to prior year and what types of revenue we're generating. On the expense side, budgeted for, of course, or accounted for, of course, 21,000 compared to prior year and expenses, and you can see that repairs and maintenance line item there of 8,000. That's the investment we made in the billiards area. And again, that'll be covered by other revenue, which will hit the revenue section of the income statement statement monthly as we work throughout the year. Overall, 24,000 favorable to prior year. That concludes my financial presentation.
Do any members of the committee have a question for Cliff? Yes, sir.
I have a question on your summary of revenues. What is included in the other section on that summary? Is that things like promotions that are done at the lanes and things like that?
On the revenue side?
Yes, on the
Yeah,
revenue.
so that
side.
shows as a negative revenue. Okay, so when we have events and acts in the Lizard Acres Lounge, we record all of our events on association wide as a net revenue. So we offset our revenue from ticket sales with the event cost. Well, we don't have ticket sales in the Lizard Acres, so that's always going to show as a negative revenue because that's where we put the expense for the acts that we have in there. So the bands or whatever is being booked in there. That's why that's showing negative. But that's also so that's why that's showing negative.
Thank you.
Good question.
Other members of the committee? Do we have any one in the audience that would like to comment? Do we have anyone online? Okay. Cliff, thank you very much.
Welcome.
Very helpful. Before we leave this, I would like to comment. I am a user of the billiards of what we call the pool hall, and in the past 2 months, when I go in there, everybody is really pleased with what's happening. There's evidently some deferred maintenance, and that has been taken care of. So they're pleased with the condition of the tables, and it's just a very positive thing to be in there. Thank you. Thank you, Gary. The next item that we have is item 4.01, Lizard Acres updates. Gary, do you have anything for us on that?
Mr. Chairman, what I know from talking to Carl Wilhelm is not much, but I know that the design plans are at the architect design being drawn up, and the tentative schedule to start the remodel is April of 2025. And that's pretty much all I know at this particular moment.
Actually, I think that's probably all there is to know about that. It's been approved, and the wheels are in motion to get this off and running. So does anyone have any questions on the committee? Anyone from the room? Do we have anyone online? Okay, let's go on to the next item. Sports Pavilion Bowling Policy Review Plan and Assignments, and that is mine. We will be reviewing all 5 of the policies for the Sports Pavilion and Bowling Alley. And the assignments have been made for the review of those, and we'll begin the review in the November meeting, and we will complete the review in the December meeting. So 2 policies will be reviewed, 1 and 2. It's B1 and B2. B1 is on is the Sports Pavilion, the title is Sports Pavilion and Bowling is B1, and Mr. Falcone will be coordinating the review of that particular policy. And B2 is resident card holder, and that one was going to be done by Mr. Edge and Ms. Fulkerson. That will be our assignment for November. And then December, we will complete the remaining 3. B3 is non-resident bowling, and that will be coordinated by Carol Card. B4 is bowling tournaments, Mr. Kleckner and Deborah Coker will be presenting that. And B5 is bowling leagues, and that's Gloria Ara and Sherry Gingrich. I will tell you all the same instructions that I have given the committee members in a separate email, is that we want you to review these, and I say this to the entire committee. I want all of the committee members to read these and be prepared that if you have questions, be prepared to ask them at that time when they're presented. We won't be reviewing these and making changes frivolously. So there won't be a review just so you can get your fingerprint on it. You know, we want the changes to be meaningful and substantive. Okay, so the assignments have been made and the tasks are defined, and we will see our first report in November. Okay, does anyone on the committee have a question about that? Okay, does anyone in the audience have a question? Is there anyone online that has a question? Okay, we're going to go proceed to item number 4.03, your strike shop space considerations. Gary, would you like to comment on that?
I can. The pro shop, as far as the owner of the pro shop, Mr. Dennis Klein, is very satisfied and happy with the space he has. He is not looking for anything to be expanded. He is doing his own modifications to the shop, which I have been pretty satisfied with the results that we're seeing. Frankly, there isn't any place to go with the shop, so he is doing some modifications internally, and I am pretty confident that what he's doing is going to make it a little bit better. He has a large enough workspace, larger than most bowling centers around who have a pro shop. His drilling equipment and his equipment in the back is first rate and top notch. Could we not have electrical panels in there? That would be great. Unfortunately, it's not the way that the building was built 40 or 50 years ago. We are dealing with what we have, but he has made a lot of different changes. He's reducing counter space. He's reducing a lot of display boards to make it feel a little bit more roomy. And I have every confidence that when he's done, it's going to look a little bit different than it does now. And it's going to feel, even though it's not going to be much bigger, it's going to feel like it is bigger. So he is very happy with what he has, and he is not interested in making it any larger.
The only question I have is, does it meet fire and safety requirements?
Yes, sir, it does.
Okay, thank you. Okay, do we have any questions from the committee? Comments from the committee? Mr. Kleckner?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. I had a discussion with Mr. Klein yesterday, and I agree exactly what Mr. Zarek said. He's really happy with how he's been able to arrange his shop and everything like that. But he says he does have one other issue besides the shop space, is storage. He said that, basically his home is his storage place. So if there's anything we could consider maybe behind the scenes for him to have some additional storage that would help his sales, something to consider.
Thank you. I think that's an issue that he will have to take up with Mr. Zarek, and you can, if necessary, you can escalate that. But that's really an operational issue, and it's not a policy issue. So if he approaches Mr. Zarek about that, I'm sure that it'll be dealt with appropriately. Okay, thank you very much. Okay, do we have any other questions from the committee? Yes, sir. Mr. Edge?
More of a comment than a question. Terry Hammond brought this issue at the last meeting of this committee last year. And at that time, Dennis was very strapped for space, wanted to expand, et cetera. And my comment at that time was, let's clean the shop up and get rid of some of the congestion in there. He had, I don't want to comment on what he had, but there was stuff in there that didn't necessarily need to be in the pro shop. He did that, and I've talked to him since, and he does seem to be more agreeable to the space. However, I had a conversation maybe a month ago with him, and he would like more space. But again, I had a similar conversation as Pete, that if he had a little building out back, similar to what the restaurant has or something like that, that he may be able to store stuff out there that isn't needed every day. Things that aren't going to be affected by the weather, such as bowling bags or stuff like that. But in general, I think he's done a tremendous job of cleaning the place up. He's organized it well. And I think everybody that goes in there is pretty happy with the service. So with that said, if Dennis doesn't need more space, then I'm happy.
Thank you. Do we have any other committee members? Okay, does anyone in the audience have a comment? Do we have anyone online? Okay, thank you very much. The next item is going to be one that I suspect will create some discussion, and I think that if you wish to comment on that, we will follow our procedure for recognition, and if there's anyone in the audience, sir, we'll be happy to speak to you, give you an opportunity a second time to come up to the podium, okay? The Sports Pavilion food and snack policy. I'm going to open it up. Gary, I'm going to turn to you if you want to supplement anything that I say. This has been an issue that has been niggling, and it's an issue that it touches a lot of people and a lot of comments on this. There's several moving pieces to this, one of which is the contract with our food vendor that's in there. And there's different parts of it that we want to talk about, one of which is the hours of operation, and the hours of operation that's supposed to be relative to what they're doing. There's the issue of, well, what about potato chips and Snicker bars? You know, what about the annual party that we have, you know, at the end of the year, or whatever, our league chairman's birthday? Right now, and this is going to sound a bit draconian, but I think it has to until we can get some resolution with the food vendor. We have met with the food vendor, and he understands clearly what the issues are that we're facing. Right now, the policy is an operation. It's not a policy, excuse me. It's an operational decision. The operational decision is no food. And I think if you look at other bowling alleys, that is fairly a common policy. However, we are still dealing with the food vendor, and we want to see how he responds, and then we'll actually have to take it from there. So this is probably going to be a continued discussion, but right now, until we can get some resolution with the food vendor, the operational decision of no food is going to remain in force. I'm going to open this up, and I'm going to ask you, Gary, if there's anything that you would like to comment on regarding this.
It's a pretty slippery slope when it comes to food and not food. Mondays particularly is an interesting day because the restaurant is closed all day. People come in from work, they want to have a bite to eat. It's 5 o'clock in the afternoon and they can't get a sandwich, and we're told not to bring anything in, and So it does cause some type of a problem for us. That being said, a lot of the bowlers who have a cup of cocktails at night's end, when we are done at bowling at 8 o'clock, would like to sit around and maybe order some food from the restaurant. Unfortunately, he closes at 8 or earlier on some days. So anyone who wants to order anything, there isn't anything available to them. So it's Fritos, Cheetos, and pretzels is what it is from the counter. So those are a couple situations that we're hearing about. We are not, let me say, if someone has a birthday, we encourage them to bring a birthday cake. We are not telling them not to. It's a celebration of a team, but not to bring in a cake for 40 or 50 people. If somebody brings in a small bag of potato chips because medically they need some nourishment while they're bowling, they may have an issue. We are not going to tell them no. But if you bring in a 5-pound bag of potato chips for a buffet, then that's where we draw the line. So it's kind of an interesting situation. And, you know, I understand it from both sides. I understand it from Pete's Cafe about business. We are trying to make sure that he stays and he's profitable. And I understand it from the other side when people walk in and they're hungry and the darn place is closed. So a resolution to that would certainly be appreciated for me and my staff, who take quite a bit of heat on a normal day. Thank you.
Well, one of the things that I want to say is we want to do the right thing. And we hear what you're saying about food and non-availability. I don't really have an answer right now. I know that there's going to be more discussion on this. So if you could let us buy some more time. I'm not trying to kick the can down the road. I think that we have to resolve all of the outstanding issues. And as soon as we can get resolution on those, then I think that we can come to an informed decision on what has to be done. So I would ask you, since you raised the question, if you wish to come down, I would entertain that. I want to hear from you.
Mr. Chairman, I'm not sure if you're aware, but the assistant manager, Greg Moran, put an email out back in June telling us about the no food policy. And one of the things that it states in there is, with the exception of personal use. And so, you know, I have one family or one group or couple that live 45 minutes away, too early to eat dinner before they show up. They make a sandwich and bring it in. They can't eat out every night. And it's just for their personal consumption. I don't know if it's feasible to limit something like that. I had another group bring in a bag of pretzels and shared it with their teammates and was told, you can't have pretzels. I mean, we gotta, I understand Pete's dilemma and the dilemma with the bowling center and the whole process, but keep in mind the burden now is on the bowlers, not on Sun City West management. So somehow we need to accommodate the bowlers.
And I agree with you 100%. You know, so that's part of the different aspects of this. So thank you for your comments. And I still I haven't changed my position. We need to work through some issues right now. And when we do get the final resolution, we're going to take into consideration those exact situations that you point out to us. So I can't tell you what's going to happen, but right now this is a work in progress. And we're not going to be able to reach any type of a decision or consensus on this today, because we have to work through the contractual issues that we've entered into.
All right, let me just throw one more example out. Because of the leagues and the clubs that I'm involved in, my whole eating schedule is all screwed up. Well, usually at night when I'm bowling, I bring a granola bar just to get some energy. If I have to buy it at the counter, the difference is the granola bar I has one carb.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm diabetic. If I have to buy it at the counter, it's 20 to 30 carbs. Am I allowed to bring my granola bar in?
Of course you are.
Okay, so I mean, that's, I'm
Yeah.
gonna have to give
Yeah.
and take a little bit,
Yeah.
even now before the policy's established.
Thank you. Yes, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, we do have, one of our committee members does have another comment. Mr. Edge?
Yeah, unfortunately, my comment may be more than a comment. At the time that we were negotiating with various vendors to take over that cafe, I was the only committee member on that committee. Joe Hoyer was there with me, but he's no longer on the committee. I dug through my notes, and what I see happening is quite inconsistent with what we talked about in that particular interview process. One of the things that we talked about was a menu, a snack menu. This is what's being put out on the lanes, and we had talked about things like pizza and hot dogs and nachos, snack foods, pretzels. That's not what's on this menu. I understand he's got a couple of full restaurant menus sitting out there, but not on every lane. These are on every lane, so I've had a few conversations with Pete as a customer, not as a committee member, and those conversations have revolved around the closure time. I've got pages of notes here that I can share. I probably won't read them all right now, but one of the key things we talked about when we entertained bringing him on as a vendor was servicing our bowling leagues and our bowlers. And one of the things we talked about specifically was being open 7 days a week. Not a problem, I can do that. One of the things we talked about were these particular types of snacks that I just referred to after the leagues are done. And we're talking about the evening leagues, not the morning leagues. I was in the Blizzard Acres pub last night, and we bought 24 bags of chips because nothing else was available. Great sales for the bowling alley. That's not what we want. We would like to buy something else. The conversation I had with Pete a couple of weeks ago was he was closing the restaurant at 10 minutes to 8. So I walked into the restaurant to try to order something before he closed so we could consume it after bowling. Most of the people here know that when you're bowling, you're not eating. I think most people know that, especially if it's a Tuesday evening classic league. You got 3-man teams and the bowling is like this. You're just one after another bowling. You don't want grease on your fingers. You don't have time to run over to the restaurant, get food, and fairness to Pete, he will deliver it, but it's a time-consuming event because these little electronic apparatuses, they fumble around taking money and so forth. It's not being administered the way that we talked about it in the discussion. We had a survey. This committee put together a survey, and we administered that survey to everybody in the bowling alley that was interested, and we got hundreds and hundreds of responses. And we recommended that those items be made available. That's not what's being made available. My initial report back to the committee when we negotiated 2 or 3 main points here. Number 1, he can do 7 days a week. Item number 10 was he could put the snack bar and keep it open past restaurant hours. So I don't care what time he closes, that snack bar needs to be open until 9 or 9:30 at night, which is what we talked about. And he also said that he could service the Lizard Acres pub with a runner. And then he'd offer a new special every week. Haven't seen any specials. There's the reports from the survey that we did and the foods that people wanted. The main ones were hot dogs, nachos, and pretzels, and pizza. I may just conclude my comments here with, quote from Pete. Snack bar will be open at least until 9 p.m. That's not happening. The conversation I had with him was between 7 and 8 o'clock, 6:30 and 8 o'clock, he's doing very little business. I don't know if that's because of his menu selection. I don't know if it's because our snowbirds haven't completely returned yet. Don't know the reason why people aren't frequenting the restaurant. My suspicion is if he was offering food that people really liked and wasn't out of certain items half the time, he may have more business. I do know that what he told me was, I'm not going to stay open so that we can do another $100 worth of volume with the bowling league after bowling. Just not going to do that. It's not profitable for me. Now, I don't know what kind of leverage we have with him. I'd prefer that we bought from the restaurant. That's what the whole intention was, bringing them in. That's why we discussed the extended hours and whatnot. Given we can't do that, apparently, then I think we need to go back to our previous policy of bringing foods in. For the previous 8 years that I bowled in that bowling alley, we had no problem with people bringing in snacks and foods after every single league I bowled in. And it might have been cheese and crackers one night. The trivia club used to have like a regular potluck buffet. We had very few issues. And if it's the intention of imposing that policy is to give Pete the business, then Pete needs to stay open.
Thank you very much. Yes, yes. Mr. Erno?
Thank you, Chairman. So I just want to make a comment. So listen, we acknowledge all of that. So we realize I've already had one conversation with Pete and talking about some of the challenges we're already seeing. Our intention is to really come up with a reasonable policy related to bringing in food, and what that's going to look like, I don't know yet. But I can tell you that everything you just said is absolutely correct, in the sense that we've had conversations about the menu, about the hours, and we had some commitments from Pete that we're going to see if he's going to follow through on, and if he does, then we'll kind of move from there. If he doesn't, to your point, we're probably going to need to have more conversations and perhaps ramp those up into a different type of contract or something. But overall, I hear all of the comments, and I acknowledge them, and I think we absolutely need to work towards that, and that's what Mr. Zurich and I are going to be working on, and we already had those initial conversations, so I just wanted to reassure not only this committee, but the members that we are working towards this, and we do want a resolution, and we hear you.
Thank you. Okay, appreciate it. I would like to now move on. Carol, card.
One thing I think we need to be very careful of when we do determine what the policy needs to be is we need to be consistent. What has been said to me several times is that what is happening in Lizard Acres and what is happening in the bowling center is different. That no food is allowed in Lizard Acres, but in the bowling areas, there is food being brought in. So, right or wrong, I don't know what the answer is, but I just think we need to be careful when we do make a policy that it's consistent for everyone.
Well said. Thank you very much. Let's go ahead and I want to make a comment before I ask for committee comments. I think we have to be very careful as committee members that when you talk with people, you cannot represent yourself as a member of the Sports Pavilion and Bowling Committee. You don't have that authority. I'm the only one that can do that. Okay? So when you're talking with Pete or whomever, please do not represent yourself as a member of the committee. That's undue influence, and only I have the authority to do that, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to ask for committee comments, and we're going to start with you, Mr. Falcone.
Would it be possible, not knowing the terms of whatever contract Pete, and I can't remember his last name, signed with Sun City West, I don't want to start making all types of claims and other things that are right or wrong with what's going on there. He hasn't been there a long period of time, but I would at least like the chance to review a maybe redacted copy of a contract that says, what are the terms and conditions under which he agreed to provide these services?
You know, I appreciate your interest in that. That's an issue that will be limited to the general manager. You know, it's a contractual issue. We can't make it a public issue. You know, so the contract itself is, I guess we would call it, it's not proprietarial, that's the wrong word, but it is confidential. Okay, so you've heard the comments that Mr. Edge stated. Those would have been the comments that would have been fed to the contracting folks to incorporate into the contract itself. So, but we won't be giving you a copy of the redacted version of the contract.
The reason I was asking is I'm not hearing that he's adhering to what were agreed to hours of operation and other things that were in there.
That very well could be, and I think that is part of the issue that we're dealing with. The issue, to be very blunt about this, the issue is that there are provisions of the contract that may not be being fulfilled as we had thought or stated they were going to be. Okay? So you can interpret that any way you want, but it's like we're not getting what we thought we were going to get. Okay? So this has been escalated to a level that that they're reviewing the provisions of the contract, and I don't think I can really say any more than that. I think it would be inappropriate, but we certainly have the attention of the right people to review this. Okay? You want something, Jack? No? Okay. Do you understand that, Mr. Falcone? Okay. Thank you. Mr. Edge?
I'm not going to pontificate for another 5 minutes, but I'll just say that this is the #1 issue in the bowling alley right now. I think Mr. Zurich would agree with me that people are extremely unhappy about it. Mr. Engen, thank you for coming. I wish we would have had more folks. Maybe next meeting we'll have more. But it's an issue, and I sat on the committee. I know what was said. I know what Mr. Schwind agreed to with that committee and in that negotiation, and it was 100% that the bowling alley considered, the whole purpose of that restaurant was to service the bowlers. And the more residents we could get, or even out of towners to come in and eat at the restaurant to help him profitability-wise, great. But it was intended to be a service to the bowlers.
Thank you. Ms. Fulkerson?
No comment.
Ms. Coker?
I just want to say one thing that we need to keep in mind is that the people who gather at the bowling alley are there as friends. They're there to socialize, have a good time. The holidays are coming. Now we have to tell our leagues, no cookies, no fudge. You can't celebrate the holidays with each other. And I think that's unfair. I think we need, especially on Mondays when I bowl, and the bowling alley does not have a restaurant on Monday. Thank you.
Ms. Card?
I'm good, thank you.
Mr. Kleckner? Thank you. Okay, do we have any final comments from anyone in the audience? Could you just come up here, please? And again, you're going to have to give us your name and your red card.
Bob Engen, 126885. Could we just get a timeline on when this policy is going to get established?
I wish I could give you one. Anything that I say will be nothing more than pure conjecture. I can tell you that this has the highest of, we understand this to have the highest of criticality. We are permitting our food vendor to, I think it was 2 weeks ago or a week ago that they met, and he wanted 2 more weeks to get everything squared away, so to speak. So anything I say will not be correct. I mean, it's just that it's not in my hands right now. I can tell you immediate future. You know, I know that's not what you want to hear. So, you know, if I told you it's going to be in 2 weeks, you know, then you go back and say, well, Mr. Rhodes said it was 2 weeks. No. We're working through a lot of moving parts. And we understand this to be, as Mr. Edge said, the #1 issue in the bowling alley right now. So we're not ignoring this.
So to be clear, no food whatsoever, candy, cookies, cake
Okay,
whatsoever?
let's do this with a straight face, okay? To say that no food whatsoever, you know, if you're gonna bring your granola bar in, we're not gonna stop you from that.
I
You know,
understand,
if
sir.
you're gonna bring in a bag of potato chips, we're not gonna stop you from that.
I can tell you, sir, I have 4 nights that I bowl, and I get at least 3 people coming up to me asking me questions on the policy.
And I wish I could answer all 3 of them, and I can't. But what you can tell them is that we have the attention of the people that are influential enough and have the authority to do something about it. We're trying to work through the contractual issues right now. And as soon as we can get that done, we'll come up with a policy on food. Now, to say when, I'm not going to say. It'll be wrong for me to say. I don't know. You know, I can tell you it's going to be very soon.
Okay. All right,
Part
thank
of this, you're going to have to just live with this until we can get through this. You know, this isn't a good situation. Nobody's arguing that. There are some things that are not right, and we're trying to work through them, and we understand what they are. We're not going to be autocratic about you can't bring your own granola bar in. That, you know, we're not absurd about that. You know, so it's not a good answer. I don't have a good answer.
Well, I could almost guarantee somebody's going to bring in some cookies tonight. And
I'm going to ask Mr.
Guarantee it.
Zarek,
Yeah.
what are you going to do about that, Gary? You're going to just let him have the cookies?
I will tell you if they're for personal consumption, but if they bring in 3 boxes of cookies and feeds half the league, that's not acceptable.
Do you understand that? He's trying to operate to make this work. That's
Okay.
what he's trying to do. He understands people like cookies, but we can't bring them in for the, when I was in the military, you couldn't bring them in for the whole platoon.
All right. Okay, thank you.
Do we have anyone else in the audience? Do we have anyone online? Okay. Our next meeting is November the 6th at 1:30, and it will be in this room. It is 2:25, and this meeting is adjourned.